Good morning, everybody. It is Jillian from Jilly Juice World, and I wanted to just do a little recap from last night because it hit me that if you do not feel anything from a vector or your environment on some level, I don't care what it is, because I'll tell you what, you will feel something when the environment makes slight changes or a lot of changes. If you don't feel anything from your environment or from a vector, then your body is either not regenerating new cells to adapt to that new algorithm, or your body's not adapting, or you are very malnourished. Because what's happening is that the new algorithms are being attacked by the new programming. And when you don't feel your environment or feel anything from a vector, it means that the energy is being squelched and you don't have the reserves, enough reserves to regenerate and replace what was being attacked. Because let me tell you, attack isn't a bad thing. Attack means that an energy wants to go and upload you because it is very hungry and it really wants to evolve you. It has a need to do that, and you can take that evolution and learn how to meter and mediate that information so it doesn't become like an attack, so to speak. But it only becomes an attack if you're that weak. Okay, so anyways, I'm trying to think how I want to say this. So you should always feel something in your environment, always. Whether it's a sneeze, whether it's a cough, whether it's a symptom of, a headache or whatever. So if you don't feel anything in your environment, it means that the food that you are eating is not regenerating and replacing. Because like anything, no matter what, you always be exposed, and something is going to, no matter what, it's going to come in and try to upload information. And when the body is trying, see, a virus can come in, but it has to come in through specific pathways. It can't just, for a virus to come in to trigger an algorithm in your body to create antibodies to attack it, it must already trigger the sensor, and it must already have entered a cell. So that cell has been compromised. And when that cell has been compromised, not in a bad way, but it's been compromised, what happens is that it sends triggers to the body to then galvanize an army to attack that cell. So imagine you're walking through society and you are not really regenerating at a maximum level because you're not maximizing your intake of the food supply, or optimizing your intake of the food supply either. And you are constantly getting in viral loads that cause the body to create armies to attack it. Now, you don't really feel those armies. Those armies are like your blood type. You have surface marker antigen A, surface marker antigen B, surface marker antigen D, E, F, G, H. There's so many different blood types. O. And those blood types hold the different antigen programming that sends off T cells and B cells to do whatever the programming calls for. And so you don't necessarily feel your blood. I'm sitting right now, I don't feel any blood unless blood comes out of me and then I see it. So you don't know what kind of armies are being galvanized against any type of evolution. Okay, but the only time you know that you are evolving is when you feel the pain, and the pain is the regeneration. Okay, that's why people have a hard time eating that are so compromised, because they have starved themselves to such an extent that even certain foods, or most foods, they have trouble with because it's painful. See, and that's one of the things about Jolie Espinoza in my group and on my Facebook page. One of the biggest hurdles that she had to overcome was the fact that food was painful. If it wasn't the bloating, it was just the pain of eating and the cramps and whatever symptom that was going on, so the body could process that food. That was one of the biggest hurdles. And hospice patients. Some of you have watched people pass away in front of your eyes when they're on an IV taking in glucose and taking in electrolytes because they can't take anything by mouth because it's so painful to process food. That's the evolution process. And so evolution is cell regeneration. It's painful. It happens in the spirit too. So when people are starving themselves and they're in a cured state of decline and starving themselves, depriving themselves of nutrition, they're also depriving themselves of evolution. When they're taking all the therapeutics, I don't care if they're a vector or up the nose or all the different things out there in the hospital system, they are completely resistant to evolution. And so you can't talk to people who are resistant to evolution. You can't, because they're starving themselves. And when you starve yourself, you have no ability to take any type of friendly criticism or harsh criticism. And so then if someone isn't evolving, then there's no way they're going to change who they are. That's the thing, is that's why there's so many wars in our societies, because people don't realize that all the lack of evolution is self-inflicted. And people think that they can change someone by just, saying something. But hey, you say stuff when you can, if you're allowed to. If you're not allowed to, then you find different ways. Because I'm telling you, people find ways to cut you off or ignore you. I've dealt with that. Or they just be like, shine you on. And I've dealt with all that, where I've had concerns, with my childhood and anywhere else in my adulthood, and people don't want to listen to your concerns because they don't see it as a problem. And so then you're like, okay, well, there's no way to change the world out there because people are literally starving themselves and they're not ready to evolve or hear anything different or have any kind of change. So then you just say, okay, time to move on, do whatever you got to do. But that's the evolution of the Jilly Juice protocol. Is sometimes, you go through, sometimes it takes events. I'll tell you what, every single crazy, unexpected, catastrophic, PTSD, trauma-ridden event is not only a learning experience, because that sounds so cliche, but it is a period of evolution. It is an energy that's a gift. Because if you're still alive from any traumatic event, I don't care what it is, it means that now you have data to figure out what could you have done differently. Where were you responsible? And sometimes you aren't responsible. Oh, I don't know. Is every accident preventable? Most are. But some, you don't realize that it's that the world has changed, and now the things that you thought that were just like taken for granted, like, when you're at a stop sign and it's dark outside and you're hauling a boat behind you and you don't realize that some people who are drunk don't have the headlights on coming at you. And so now before you pull away from a stop sign, you're going to make sure that to the left of you and to the right of you, there is even a dark type of moving vehicle. Because when you now pay attention that there are people that do not have their headlights on and they're driving drunk and they're not paying attention to stop signs and whatever, then you're going to take a few more seconds to make sure. That's the data. That's the data that you would get from PTSD if you survive any type of traumatic event out there. And so if you look, and that's how I always looked at life, is that and I got it from Landmark Education. I'll give them a little bit of kudos because I did take a lot of their courses. But one of the biggest takeaways that I received from them is the fact that when I look at what goes on, when someone gives me some kind of advice, or they're like kind of pissed off at me for whatever reason, or something doesn't go the way that I expected to go, I'm like, okay, where was I responsible? What could I do to make things better? And I have to fix it with another person, but what could I do in my life so that way this situation doesn't ever happen again? Because who wants to relive the same thing over and over again? That's insanity when you do the same thing over again, expect a different result, and then you're all bitching about, well, why is my life shitty? Well, you keep doing the same thing over again. You never learn from the last thing you did. Okay, so that's the thing that I always say is, what did I do wrong and where could I have been responsible, and take ownership and then modify behaviors. You know, if my alarm clock goes off and I don't hear it, then I better have 2 alarm clocks. Do 100% that you can to make sure that the same situation will never ever happen again. And that's really that's been my rule of whatever. But sometimes I can't control what goes on out there because it's not me that's working the levers or at the steering wheel. And so I will just deal with things as they come. But if things don't go right after reacting to certain situations, and I look at, okay, what did I do wrong that made me feel uncomfortable during this situation? And so then I look at and modify my behavior currently and next time. So every single piece of upset of homeostasis is a learning event. And that comes from feeding your body. When you starve your body, you starve yourself from nutrition. You starve yourself from evolution. You starve yourself from taking in new information. And I'll tell you what, that's why a lot of people don't understand JGs, because they're in such a starvation mode that they can't possibly even take in the current food supply, much less take in new information. And so that's why, you know, people like the powers that be are not too concerned about the J juice, because most people cannot handle change and they are starving themselves. They can't take in evolution. They refuse to evolve. And yes, it's going to be impossible for them. The energy of evolution can be very exponential if you have a lot to evolve. It's not impossible. You have to set your life up for it. But it takes a lot of energy to evolve. And you see how much energy I deal with. Okay, I'm here in Ohio. High energy out here. Extreme weather. People are awesome, yes. They have their issues, but they have their issues in California. They have issues everywhere. But at least I know the issues in California, but I'm tired of the issues in California because, you know, it's innovation, but I had to get back to basics. Ohio here it's great because you're back to basics. You don't have so many distractions, you know, that you're so entertained that you don't have time to look at yourself. There's only a few things you can do in Ohio. Go hang out at Walmart, go to a bar, go to a restaurant, and go to a movie. Maybe go to, like, well, even the entertainment parks are not that interesting. There's a few museums, but I don't go to the Hall of Fame over here. Okay? So I'm not interested in football. So if there's not many distractions, then what are you going to do? You're going to look inward. Or you will drink yourself to death, or you will go to so many restaurants that there's not really that many diverse restaurants out there. I mean, there's pizza, American food, a few Asian restaurants, and I think I did partake in 2 of the Indian restaurants that are out here, and that's pretty much it. I think there's one restaurant that had the Vietnamese, the Thai, and the Chinese all together in one restaurant. And that's it. There was maybe there's a mall that has the same stuff that you see everywhere in, you know, any town USA. Okay, and I've been to almost any town in USA because I was a wife of a truck driver. Or I am a wife of a truck driver. So we went through every single town in USA. And they're all the same. Strip malls, chain restaurants, chain stores, and gas stations for miles and miles and miles. Okay, so anyway, so you got to get back to basics and you got to figure out, okay, what now? I don't even know where the hell I was going with this, but whatever. But I'll just tell you what, you know, innovation and evolution, they go hand in hand. They come from conflict. And so I had to deal with a lot of conflict, and I had to be very strong. You have to be very strong to be able to evolve in 2 different, into 2 different, you know, areas. But I lived in Hawaii. I moved to different places for a lot of different reasons. And so I was able to acclimate very quickly, and some were easier than others. And so I think that I already built the bone of acclimation and evolution and learning how to change and deal with new people and new situations because I had the energy to, and I've always had the energy. I was depleting, yes. So I think that during that time that I met my husband, I was very skinny. And I think that when we got on the road and we were eating all the food on the road, yes, it made us a bit more obese, but that was the energy retention that I needed. But it also, too, there was no balancing force to make sure that the body can recalibrate with that food supply, because it was all gas station pizza and Chef Boyardee type of stuff, which isn't bad, but you have to learn how to balance all of that out. So, so I definitely gained some energy to learn the conspiracy world. That's where I learned all the conspiracy world, all the great food on the highways gave me the fuel to understand another side of the world that I did not fully understand, and I was very interested in. Okay, and then I got into the holistic area and all that stuff. So I'm telling you, it takes someone who isn't starving themselves, because you could be obese and be starving. You could be underweight and be starving. The reason why people have disproportionate manifestations in their physique is because they have hormonal imbalances. They could be eating all the food in the food supply and it isn't doing shit for them. They could be starving themselves, obviously, and it's not doing anything for them because it's not even brought into their body. And that's why viruses, which are cancer, disease, and chronic illness, is easily will easily be triggered in people who are not evolving. Because if you're not evolving, you're devolving. There's only two ways you can go on this spectrum of life, okay? I mean, you have the zero, the fulcrum, the cured state equilibrium. And either you're going to decline, and the system is going to manage your decline, and it'll be painful because the body still wants to live. But now they're making the therapeutics that much more aggressive. They're making the different cures. I mean, that guy, that governor who tested positive, who was asymptomatic, he I think took that and plus a drug called Regeneron or something that made him so asymptomatic. But the thing is, when you're in a cured state of decline, you don't feel anything because a dead person doesn't feel anything. You can be still alive and dead simultaneously. Well, how is that? Because in a dynamic environment, you should not be not feeling something. You should be feeling something in a dynamic environment. So basically, you're a zombie. So The Walking Dead is so apropos. We have people who are alive who don't feel shit in this environment. Or if they feel shit, they will take something for it to put them more in a zombie state. That's The Walking Dead. Because anytime you destroy something at the micro level so you don't feel the energy, that's destruction, that's death. Eventually, that's going to reach your vital organs. And you won't be around anymore. Maybe part your body will be, but it will slowly disintegrate for the elements and the worms and all the parasites that finally come out. And so, yes, The Walking Dead, I mean, the zombie apocalypse is absolutely when we find the ultimate cure. Holy shit. And I'll tell you what, the J juice could be the ultimate cure too. Because those that keep taking J juice when they don't need to be, they've already opened up their ionic gates and retroactive evolution. They already woken up all their microbiome with all the viruses, the parasites, and protozoa, the proteins, the fungus, and the bacteria. They felt a lot of evolution, right? And they still keep feeling some evolution, but they keep still taking J juice when they feel something. Or when they don't feel something. Just to ensure they don't feel something. That's why they're taking the J juice. And so they will be a zombie as well. But they'll be a very skinny zombie. Because the J juice will take off substance. Because it's highly energetic. It consumes energy. And guess what? The covalent bonding, which is the glucose, the sugar, and the muscles, and the acids, the amino acids, that's all the proteins that the salt will energize and consume. And so the zombie apocalypse is being in a cured state in a dynamic environment. And I'm telling you, it's a dynamic environment. But here's the thing, I'm feeling stronger. The more viruses that I am exposed to, the more energy, whether it's 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G, 9G, I don't care what kind of freaking G it is. I will continue to get stronger and stronger as those around me who are not figuring out this shit, they're going to get weaker and weaker. And it's going to be, I'll be going this way, they'll be going this way, and holy shit. It'll be very evident. You started seeing it in my dog. She reversed the aging process. Now it's just keeping her alive in a dynamic environment. She still sneezes at night. I still hear her first lines of defense because viruses still come through. I haven't felt the heat, but I do feel the energy. I feel it. I feel so strong in my gut. I feel strong in my resolve. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things out there that will work against you. But the key thing is finding your voice when you thought you had none. The key thing is to just carve out your place in the world, your safe space, and then figure out where you want to go in life. And that's going to be for a while, because right now there's so many things, so many changes going on. And so if you don't need to figure out where you want to go in life because you're already maintaining status quo, then figure out how to heal and evolve and start triggering different levels of evolution where you have a different thought process. You know, I like seeing, John, your revelations. It's so freaking great. It's nice to deal with that kind of equal. Not everybody is adept with words because, yes, English is a second language, or there's other things going on in their life that they're healing. But it's nice to see somebody else that also understands the use of words and all the craziness with the activism and the freedom and the civil liberties stuff, which I thought was very clever. So I just want to say that, yes, starvation is going to cause lack of evolution, and it will be almost next to impossible to really change, to expect the people around you to understand it, what you're doing. Because when you're that malnourished, I think it does affect how you concepts. I think it affects how you process information. And that's a little scary. And so when you realize that's kind of the world that you live in, you just kind of do what you got to do. Protect yourself. Protect your kids. And feel. Because if you don't feel in this environment, you are the walking dead. And there's enough viruses to let you know that you should be feeling something. And if you don't feel anything, and you're doing the JJs, and you've already done the JJs for a while, or you've taken on the therapeutics, and you still continue to take the holistic stuff, if you don't feel anything in this environment, and that is your desire is to feel nothing, or to self-medicate, the environment's going to work against you. And that's why the third law of thermodynamics is an object in an isolated space can be in a cured state at 0. But there is no object out here that's isolated. In a dynamic environment, that object will deteriorate if it's not evolving. You can't be cured and evolve. No matter what, anyone that's looking for a cure is looking for the end result to be death. Now, you can lessen the evolution and make the energy less aggressive. That's why you keep building up your body, mind, and spirit, so you can handle it and you can feel it and you can be that antenna. But if you are desiring to be in a cured state, anesthetized, and distracting yourself away from the pain and all the energy and whatever, you're not going to last long in this dynamic environment. And it's only going to get worse because the fall is here and kids are going back to school and they are mutating viruses as we speak. And they're only going to get stronger because we're heading into flu season. All right, bye.